Guilty Pleasure originally got together when we were all in college. We were originally a five-piece. Everyone wanted to kind of just be in a band at the time, and we just decided to form and just see what we could do with it. And we've spent the last 2 and a bit years playing locally and recently branching out to other cities.
My name's Neil Eastwood. I'm in a band called Teesside. We've been going since around October 2024. Played our first gig on Halloween at Any Volume. Sold out, so it was a brilliant start. And ever since then we've just carried on a little bit of momentum. I've been to gigs in Darlaw, here, Stockton, Newcastle. The main differences is what you see is like the style of music. Like it's mad how like wide it varies like across the northeast. Like here I'd say it's more of like there's a mix and match between indie, obviously bands like Cavello, Marek, stuff like that, Provenance, Risco, and then it's also like the more metal bands, as I've said myself, Sulphide, The Larches, Chieftain, no Ripcord, even though they're from Darlaw. But yeah, I'd say in Newcastle it's there's a lot more pop punk. A lot more pop punk up there.
It can be quite varied with the different artists and the different genres. And it makes it quite eclectic and easy for anyone to come and have a watch kind of thing.
Yeah, as well. Sorry, Hannah.
I was going to say, well, the amount of people that want to start bands, it's just the different tastes. There's something for everyone, really, in this area.
And it's because it's quite a small area in like relative terms, everyone knows each other. Like I could walk into a town and know people from gigs but not know who they are or like any sort of relation, but I know of them.
I once drummed for Wings of the Monkey years ago. Then the first band that I was in where we properly sort of rehearsed and did gigs was Tarquin Peters, which was a punk band. And then after that I joined Rose Malice, which was sort of like an indie band. And we spent quite a lot of time playing places like Any Volume, and that was great. And then after I left those bands, I was part of Mirage for one rehearsal, and then Blank Slate for a while.
Yeah. I mean, it's different compared to many kind of bigger mainstream cities because there's just so many smaller local venues that kind of just accept any bands and artists that want to play there. And I think the difference also between Teesside and some other cities are, I think specifically there is a larger amount of younger up-and-coming bands coming from different colleges specifically, and all of them are doing really well in the music scene currently.
You get massive crowds. I mean, obviously venues like the Globe, the Independent and stuff. There's a lot more venues in Newcastle and stuff than there is down here. Obviously we have Cafe Etch and like the whole of Baker Street down there. But I feel like a lot of the local venues that we have down here is like starting to die out.
For me, it was a weird one really. I used to play the ukulele in like sort of year one, and then there was this summer school, this music summer school, TVMS summer school, So I had nothing to do over the summer, so my mum put me on the summer school, and that was where I discovered this thing called the drumometer, and I really enjoyed it. I didn't have any drums at home, but each year I'd go back and I'd go on this thing called the drumometer, where you could measure how fast you'd drum and how many beats you could do in a certain amount of time. And then in 2020 I ended up getting my first electric drum kit. I couldn't read music, I didn't know anything about music theory, so I ended up just listening to a load of musicals and learning the drum parts off by heart. And then about 2 years later I ended up joining my first band.
It depends who you're going to see. Like, really depends who you're going to see. Like, what type, like, all of this is coming from like a me going to any volume kind of thing. I mean, at the Georgian, I was there the other week for the Hyperbolic single release. The atmosphere there, packed, just lively, very lively. But obviously there can be issues caused with young people obviously getting drunk and stuff. But obviously I'm not going to go against it, because before I was in the band I was doing the exact same thing. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I met Amy and Noah here at Borough Town Hall, because there's this thing called Band Jam and ran by Music, and we used to play covers together, like the odd few. And then and one day she asked me, do you want to start a band? Just out of the blue. And yeah, so that's how I met Matthew. That's how we all met Matthew. That's how we all met each other. And then later on, Hannah joined. It was a saving grace, really.
It's like I've been playing piano since I was 4, so I've been looking around. I've been in music for quite a while. So when I started band jam, I was actually playing keyboard, and that's how we sort of all, me, Noah, and Dan, all started getting to know each other.
Some places the crowds are like, yeah, let's go, I love this band, and then some other places just a lot of standing around, but that's just kind of the thing, isn't it? Like, some people aren't there to see you, and sometimes they are, but when you get those gigs, like, it's really fun.
I think what I love about the music scene in Teesside is I've been going to, even though I've only been drumming for 5 years properly, I've been going to gigs ever since I was like 5 or something. My first was Meatloaf in Newcastle. But I've seen gigs at Newcastle, and I do a lot of orchestral and other things. And if you look at anywhere like Richmond, Durham, there's a lot of orchestral or brass band or sometimes jazz stuff. But what I love about Teesside is there's such a variety. Like, you could go to there was a period of time where you could go to any volume, and you'd, like, on one night you could see a punk band, a ska band, an indie band, a psychedelic rock band, and then just a rapper. And I think the music scene in Teesside is fantastic, because it's just somewhere where grassroots artists really have a safe space to try out new material, you know, work out what they like to perform, what works for them. And yeah, I just think it's a fantastic space for emerging talent.
I think with a lot of gigs, especially around here, it's a case of people will come watch one band and then they'll just leave. So you'll see like a massive crowd of people, and then when it's your turn to play, there's just no one there.
Yeah, I'd say that is yeah. I think find that more with younger bands and younger audiences, is where their followers tend to come to gigs just to watch that band, and then they are not really interested in watching maybe the other support bands that happen, which I think is something that needs to be encouraged, especially to younger audiences.
One thing that I usually find a really big issue in the local scene is like people who go out of the way to try and like ruin someone's reputation by saying something about them. And obviously, because a lot of the people who do go to gigs and are in the scene are very close, so shit flies, shit goes about the place. Like, I've known people who are in bands and had their like mental health just drop because of what someone said about them. It's awful, it's horrible to see, it's awful to watch, it's not nice.
The whole sort of people come in and they're definitely underage and they're under the influence of something, and it's just, it gives teenagers that go to gigs a bad name for themselves, I find.
A lot of venues in the local area are 16 plus now, but even then you know you need to have ID or an adult with ID, and but when you've got that kind of younger audience, especially with what we're trying to care for, you might have people who are 15 or 14 that want to come, but they just can't because of the restrictions.
There always could be some improvement, like nothing's always perfect, you know what I mean? Like, I know primarily a lot of the bands that you see are lads, like a lot of them are lads, but I do see more like women bands popping up now. Like, of course, Wednesday Flowers, they're huge now. Obviously they're doing that festival in Stockton, which is good to see, because it's good to see women getting involved in the scene and stuff. Obviously Guilty Pleasure, Hyperbolics, that other one, what's it called? There's another one. Ben, you're in it, if you're watching, you know what I'm on about. Yeah, it's good to see women getting involved, because there's a lot of talented women, so it'd be nice to see a lot more of that, yeah.
When I first started going to gigs sort of at any and stuff like that, I think the vibe then was great. I always think there was there's periods that I split it into. When I first started going, it was great, and it was very much just about the music. There wasn't any sort of like party atmosphere. Then when I joined Rose Malice, and there was bands like Rose Malice, Provenance, Burn the Valley, Mascara's Lies, we'd always be playing there. There was very much, there was a fantastic atmosphere. It was safe, it was friendly, and it was all just about the love of music. All your friends had come along from different colleges, loads of different places, and it didn't matter if you didn't know people, you just chat and make new friends. It was fantastic, just coming together to celebrate music. Yeah, it would be like, I often describe when I talk about it, it would be like going to at least one party every week, because it was just an amazing atmosphere. And then I think after I left Rose Malice, there was a period of time where the atmosphere changed a little bit. It became a little bit more, I'd say, grungy, less friendly. It became, I felt quite cliquey and exclusive, and I didn't like the atmosphere then.
Being in a female-fronted band, there's times where, we applying to festivals, and a lot of them won't consider us due to potentially being a female-fronted band, and I think that's not particularly right, personally.
There was definitely a period of time where I felt that lots of gig venues became very unsafe for women in particular. Like, I've had a few friends who I've been talking to, and they've, I've just been talking to them, and someone's come up and grow up to them, or they've come and told me that someone's, come up and tried to assault them, and I felt like there was a period of time where no one seemed to do much about that, and I didn't like that. But I was at some gigs the other week, and I think, thankfully, that's changed now. I think people are really sort of starting to, realise that that was an issue, and that we need to change that, and we need to make sure that going to gigs in the area is safe for everyone, no matter who you are, what sex or gender you are, and what race you are.
Yeah, like in the music industry, like not just locally but massive festivals, you'll see there's like a huge lack of female artists, female bands, but I think you see it more in more alternative music, because obviously you've got your pop stars and stuff, all the females, but in alternative music there's just not enough female bands on festival lineups.
I haven't seen them live yet, but I think the Wednesday Flowers, it's fantastic. You've got a band where everyone in it is, female. And I love that you've got bands like that headlining NE for I think it was their 5th anniversary gig or something like that. I think that's great because when I started sort of in the bands, there wasn't much of that. I remember Comparison, but other than that, there wasn't really any sort of, mainly female bands. It was mainly just males. But I can't remember the name of the band, but there was a period of time where there were quite a few bands that would have sort of, female lead singers. I thought that was fantastic. So I think it's getting there. I think it didn't used to be great, and I think there's steadily been an increase in sort of, how many girls are just picking up an instrument and having fun and playing and making awesome music. And I think how safe it is for women, I think, is getting better. I don't think it's there quite yet. It was a while ago. It was fantastic a while ago, but I think after that little dip, it wasn't great. But I think it's getting there. I think it's a lot safer.
Social media is obviously a very, very strong point of being in a band, because Instagram, apps like Instagram, it's free. It's easy to distribute stuff. You can get your accounts on there. You can distribute what you need to. Yeah, it's very helpful. I mean, a lot of people can share their experiences at gigs, obviously get photos and stuff. So I think what social media kind of does towards the genres is kind of it puts an impression on it kind of thing, if you know what I mean. So if someone's gone to a Beneath the Collapse gig and there's loads of people there, but someone's been to an indie gig and there's about 4 people there, it kind of shows who's going to, what's happening in the scene, what's biggest at the moment. It's just stuff like that.
I think it's it's kind of made it so you have to have 30 seconds to capture their attention, otherwise you'll never really get put out there or anything, or no one will know you. Compared to before, where you could you'd have to go and see the set and see what they're all like. But now it's very quick, too quick.
I think social media's got its ups and downs, but I've got to say I think it's a massive positive for social media, how bands can use it to... I remember when I played the Forum Music Centre in Darlington, it was literally just a text message between us and the forum. We were talking about how to get it arranged and stuff like that. And that wouldn't have been possible if we didn't have an Instagram page or a Facebook page. And I think it's especially good as well when you're in a band and all your friends know you're in a band. So you can, make this post about how you've got a gig coming up, and then your friends can share it. And then, someone sees that and they go, oh, this band's doing quite well, we can get them there. So I think social media it's had an amazing effect on the local scene. I think bands are using it more, not just to sort of create awareness about their band and the gigs, but to sort of, be more personal with, the people that want to come and listen to their music as well.
People can judge you entirely based on, if something happened, if Matthew dropped his guitar and I had a massive voice crack on in the space of a minute, that would be what would be posted online, and then people would hold that against us for a very long time. But I think it's also you can buy tickets online and you can find so many new bands and things just from Instagram and what you might like. So it has many positives.
I would say it's not really a case of the local artists are concerned about fame. It's more concerned about putting passion into it and wanting to get that result, because everyone's fighting for it. Everyone's fighting to get a recording out, publish a recording. People, it's just, the whole reason we do it is because it's a dream. It's a dream of ours.
When I say there used to be a party atmosphere in NE, it was, you'd play the music and everyone would love it. You'd have a party, but you'd still prioritise the music. The music would be amazing, and you still make sure there was a good gig. You wouldn't have a crap gig, otherwise you wouldn't be asked to play it back. But then I feel some bands now are at a point where they're sort of losing the quality of the music. They're sort of focused on having parties, stuff like that, and I think that's a shame. Bands that are sort of trying to just become well known rather than actually make awesome music.
all say it's luck, but I do believe that it comes with dedication and hard work. I would say there is a few bands that do, or like just think that it's all there for them, and they think they can just do it dead quick. But no, it does definitely take dedication. You can tell who's dedicated and who isn't straight away.
Yeah.
There are definitely some people.
But I
and-
think a lot of us are just here for the crockery.
Everyone, if you could ask any band, they would all love to make it. Like,
Yeah.
who wouldn't love to be world famous and make massively rich? Like, but I don't think it's a problem as in people only do it for the potential fame.
There is a lot of important people who I see at gigs a lot, you know, just supporting local bands. Daniel Dowd, you're one of them. I love Dan so much. He's a great figure because he's always, like, he shares people's music if there's a new single out from a band. He's always at your gigs, he's always getting his friends to come. Like, even if like his friends won't come, he'll always still come. And he's just a happy, like, he's a lively figure and he's lovely to talk to.
I've got a very good friend called Joe Bradford, and I haven't seen in a long time, but I would really like to see again. And he's currently a guitarist with Provenance. I think he's in Manchester at the moment. But I remember when there used to be, before there was this whole any craze with sort of Provenance and Rose Miles and stuff, there was a lot of gigs at the Westgar Social Club and Basecamp. Rest in peace to both of those venues. And I remember seeing bands such as the Harrow Band, and then Clue Band after that. And these were bands that were sort of really getting this music scene up and going. They were keeping it fresh, they were keeping it alive. And then basically Provenance became Provenance. And I think Joe's been a catalyst for that music scene. He's a lovely guy. He always gets on with people. He's a fantastic guitarist. And I think he's a really, really good face for Northeast music. He shows that we're friendly and we're talented, and there's a lot more to us than people might give us credit for.
Josh Marshall, he's a person, like, obviously you're away now, Josh. I miss you, I've got your tambourine. Lively figure. I mean, he is a massive spirit of the local gig scene. Luke Sorkin, love you as well. He's a massive figure. I mean, being No Ripcord's mascot, he really helps out. Just people like that really do help out because it really brings spirits of local scenes out, and you can really, like, if that person's there at a gig, you know, it's going to be a good night tonight.
Yeah, Mal, what is his?
Teesside.
Yeah, well, he's everywhere. Literally, like, he covers all of the gigs possible. He's absolutely class. Like, and we're talking, so one of our bands that we know, Comparison, like, if you like a band like Comparison, he will literally follow you everywhere. It's absolutely great.
One in my musical career that sticks out, which is completely unrelated to any of the other stuff, was when I was asked to do, it's an opera called a choral thing called Carmina Burana, where you need 5 timpani, and so far I'd only ever played 4, I think. But I don't have my own timpani, as such I couldn't practice it. So I had to sight read it on the day, and that was one of the most nerve-wracking gigs I've ever done. It was an orchestra of 100 of, like, the best musicians in not even just Teesside, just the North. And I felt such imposter syndrome. I felt like I shouldn't have been there. You know, I was having to sight read this. I hadn't played on 5 timps before. But I hit every note, everything went perfectly. It was incredibly difficult. And I remember the feeling of adrenaline I had at the end of it was one of the best feelings I've ever had. Similarly, other orchestral gigs, like I'm in Tees Valley Youth Orchestra. We played Italy, the sort of main square in Florence, to something like 7,000 people. That was an amazing feeling.
I'll always remember Any Volumes New Year's. Oh my God, that was a funny night, that. But I remember, I think it was Shade who was on at the time. Soulfire was actually supposed to be doing it, but obviously because a few of my bands are like children, they had like family things that they needed to do. But I'll never forget, like, all of the staff and all of like the performers who were there getting on stage and counting down till midnight, and we all went Happy New Year. It's brilliant. That was a key moment. But also something that I'll always remember is probably going to my first gig in the local scene. I went to go see a band called The Resurgence, and meeting the people in that band and just like messing on and stuff, having fun.
I think our first gig was like one of the most memorable things I've ever done, like looking out at the people that were there like to see us, and it's just really cool. But like, it's just the fact that you've just got to roll with it. Like during our first gig, Poor Noah, the toms, I just turned around and they just slowly fell down, and I was like, oh, that's going to be quite a problem because we're doing No One Knows by Queens of the Stone Age. But it was.
The toms fell, the bass drum pedal went missing, and our set was like half an hour later than when it should have been.
But it's like those things are always going to happen.
Yeah, it was just something, you know, we knew something would happen, but it's just how you deal with it, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's like it went like perfectly, really. Like, no one really knew, which was great because it felt like we could do something, you know, and it felt like we'd accomplished something.
I remember one of my favourite gigs that I ever did was with Parkman Peters. It wasn't our last gig, it was our penultimate one. And we had a headline at any volume. And there was only 7 people in the crowd. But even though I've done like a vast amount of gigs in loads of different genres and different places, you know, amazing places like the Sage in Gateshead or Italy, or this is one of my favourite gigs because I truly think we defined what punk was. We didn't care. Like, the music was amazing, but I remember by the end of it, like, we were all sweating buckets. There was an amp that had fallen off the stage. My drums, there was barely any of them left. There was just the snare and like the bass drum to the side. Cymbals were everywhere. But the 7 people that went there were moshing like it was the best band, like Slipknot at Download. It was just fantastic. It was one of the best gigs I've ever done, and I'll always hold that nicely in my heart. And then for other bands, the Battle of the Bands final with Rose Malice, also an amazing night. And there was once a gig that was Provenance, Rose Malice, Burn the Valley and Mascara's Lies at the West Garth Social Club. And I think that's the last gig I ever went to before it closed down. And that was incredible. It felt like at the time it was the 4 main bands of that scene. And I mean, it was absolutely packed. It was sold out. But yeah, the atmosphere of that night was incredible. And I'll always remember that one.
Lots of funny things happen. I've seen fights. I've seen people passed out. No, but all of that bad stuff aside, like the local music scene is definitely something to be into. It's something to do if you're passionate about music, getting your music out in the local scene and performing all around this place. Really good sense of community and just meeting people. And just if you're passionate about it, then just do it. There's no point in just wishing you could do it. Start a band, just play local music. People will want to meet you. People will want to do stuff with you. But yeah.